Hello creators, how are you guys? Welcome back to another episode of the Video Creators Podcast / live stream. It's great to hang out with you guys again like we do here on the live stream every Monday at 2 p.m. Eastern Time at youtube.com/video creators. And for those of you who are joining us on iTunes, SoundCloud, Stitcher, Google Play, Spotify, wherever you're listening to us, we appreciate having you guys here. We have these episodes up for you every Tuesday, just talking about how do we grow our YouTube audiences, how do we reach people, change their lives with the messages that we're spreading, and how do we turn this into businesses and make money from our efforts and all that kind of stuff. And so today we will have no exception to hopefully offering you guys some mind-blowing YouTube content and trading to help you guys accomplish your goals on YouTube. Again, we're joined here with my sponsored co-host, Renee Teely from Powtoon. Hey, Renee, how are you doing?
I'm good. How are you?
I'm good. Welcome back. It's good to hang out with you again here. I'm excited about this topic because I'm a busy person. And I got a business that I'm running. I've got, I'm married, obviously that takes time. We got 7 kids. We have 7 kids in 8 years. So that requires a lot of my time. In fact, I'm just now sitting down to work here today. It's 2 p.m. Eastern time and just kind of getting into the groove of things today. There's just, all the other things you need to do, right, with just living. There's a lot going on. And you're like, hey, let's talk about how to make 30 videos in 30 days. And I almost did a face palm. I was like, are you serious? But I know it's totally possible. I've never done it. Actually, no, I take that back. I have done it once, like you. And I have a story similar to yours that we'll get into here. But tell us a little bit about yourself and Powtoon and the things that keep you busy.
Yeah, so as you mentioned, my name is Renee Teely. I'm the Chief Evangelist for Powtoon. And for those of you who don't know Powtoon, it's an online video creation platform for creating your own short, engaging videos. And I love this topic, 30 videos in 30 days, because when we first started talking about this, I had to really think if I had actually created 30 videos in 30 days. And it turns out I've actually done this a number of times. At one point, I created 50 videos in 2 days. But I had to think through that because I've never actually set out to create 30 videos in 30 days. I've created 30 plus videos in that amount of time just because I had business needs and goals that justified doing that. And so as we talk about this, I want to make sure that people aren't creating content simply to create content, but there's real purpose behind it, and you have some business justification or a personal justification,
right?
That kind of warrants creating that number of videos.
Yeah. Vina V in the chat says, I did 30 videos in 30 days about 2 years ago. It really boosted my channel. Ross Sillers in the chat, live chat here says, I did 100 videos in 30 days, January 2017. 100 videos in 30 days.
Wow.
Man, Ross,
I'm not sure that I've ever done that.
You need to get out of the chat and come on. So, Popri Gosh says, I want to make 60 videos in 30 days. Oh, and Melody Lane says, I love Powtoon. I signed up for 2 years from Tim's link. So, awesome. Yeah, that's great. Yeah, and the goal, what we want to do here is not just talk about the sake of generating a lot of content just for the sake of generating a lot of content, right? Like, you can make 30 quick little clips on your phone in maybe 30 seconds and you'll have, something literally like 1 second clips or something. That's not what we're talking about here. A few things that we want to accomplish which is difficult for us as busy people, is one, we want to better our craft. We want to learn how do we better engage like an audience and make better videos than I did before. 2, we want to get some of our better systems down of like, how do I actually consistently generate content and value for my audience? And I understand that some of us, like, let's just be honest, for some of us, our videos just take an enormous amount of time. And, we're talking like animation or writing skits and having to shoot on location and needing crews. Like, some of it just can't be done. But I would challenge you, even if you are in that situation, as we talk about this conversation here today, I think that there's probably ways you can pull it off if you really wanted to. I think that's the key here. I think that you could make, even animation, because you make like 30 10-second shorts and put them on Instagram maybe instead of YouTube if you wanted to, like, right? Once you kind of...
And if you really want to focus on animation, I do have a tool that will help.
What tool is that?
Easily create animation.
That's true. It will go way faster.
I kind of talked about this a little bit in the beginning, but Powtoon, it is a platform for creating short, engaging videos, but that means a lot of different things. And so there are templates within the platform that will help with animation, cartoon style animation, or more infographic style of animation. So there's a lot of different kind of areas to play with there, and just motion graphics in general. So there are a lot of different elements that you can play within the platform.
Yeah, and that's the third thing, So it's not just our process, our systems, and our processes, and how do we make better content, 1 and 2, but 3 is like we might find that we actually need different tools to do this, because we've been using the same tools for so long, and maybe we're in a rhythm and we know how to get it up. But I remember, like, for me as an example, when I went from Windows Movie Maker back in the early days, 2006, and then I upgraded, got my first Mac, and I remember making the switch to iMovie. It was not an efficient switch, but once I understood iMovie, oh my gosh, it was way faster. And then I went to Premiere, Final Cut Premiere, which is like their cheap, I don't think it exists anymore, but it was before their pro version. And again, like a video that used to take me like a half hour to an hour to edit took me literally 8 hours to do on,
wow,
when I first getting started on Final Cut Elements. But then I switched to Final Cut 10 when that came out, and I was like, well, this is actually, to me at the time, it felt like a downgrade. So it was like, felt to me more like iMovie Plus. So I got a refund on it and switched to Adobe Premiere Pro and that whole suite, which is still what I use today. But that was such a steep learning curve. Like I spent 2 days going through an online course about how to use Premiere. And so at first, it actually feels like a step backwards, but it really ends up being like one step backwards in order to take like 100 steps forward, if that's even a number. But you get the idea, though. And maybe something like Powtoon is an appropriate tool for someone who's used to like doing something a certain way. They're like, if I want to be consistent this year in 2019, maybe I need a different tool, and it's going to cost me a little extra money or something, but it's going to save. If I put an hourly rate on my time, I bet there's probably a point where that's going to pay off a lot more faster than we think it will.
Yeah, the other thing I would mention too is I know that 30 videos in 30 days sounds overwhelming. I mean, I've done it before, and even thinking about that, it sounds kind of overwhelming to me. But I think with the right planning and the processes in place, it's very achievable. And figuring out the right tools to help you with that, I think will definitely be a big part of that process. And creating kind of templatized elements and doing different things up front for that. But I think it's really a matter of making sure that you do some of the upfront work in terms of planning before you actually move forward with your production. It's just going to make it that much easier.
Yeah, and we'll talk about some of that here. Weirder Than Your Mom in chat. Sorry, that sounded like I was talking about your mom at first. That's their name.
Yes, it did.
Weirder Than Your Mom says, is 15 videos per month enough? And then 30-day reviews is like, I'm going to be able to do more than 30 ideas, anything, because it's like 30-day reviews, So I think what we're talking about here is not necessarily that you have to publish every day for 30 days, although you could. But it's like, for me, when first time I did this, I actually did a whole bunch. We'll talk about the story here in a second. But I actually published for a few months. I published one a week. I think I had like 9 months in my little stretch I did. I did 9 months worth of content in a few days and just published that. So it's kind of like if you're a busy person, just kind of ripping the Band-Aid off for a few days or a week or whatever it takes to kind of just get this done. And then the rest of the, however many months of worth of content you did, now you can still maintain your busy working family lifestyle and still stay on top of your channel. So did you have something else there?
Yeah, I was just going to say that kind of goes back to having business goals for your video too. And you might find that the right kind of publishing schedule for you is to publish weekly. But you can create those videos in advance, and then you just have all this content that you can start publishing. And then as, if you have all those videos in advance, then you can start on all of the other assets that go around it, like a blog post to accompany each video, and kind of your social strategy around it. So just because you're creating 30 videos in 30 days doesn't mean you have to publish 30 videos in 30 days.
Right. And the other thing I'd say before we jump into how to do this, guys, which we want to kind of do a little bit quickly so we can have a lot of time for your questions here at the end. So Laura, my producer's in the chat, and she'll be taking all your questions and putting them in front of us here. So ask her there. But the downside, though, to potentially just consider is that if you're new to making videos and you make 30 videos, you potentially have made some pretty big mistakes in terms of how you craft your content that you just repeated 30 times. And no one likes feeling like, oh, like you publish 3 videos and then you're seeing the response, you're getting feedback, and you're like, oh, I would love to just change that way I did that, or the way I say that, or my I didn't check the audio or whatever, and now you've just done like 30 videos that way. And I would suggest if that's you and that you're in that position, I think it's far more advantageous to just scrap it all and do it better going forward, rather than just keep publishing just because you made the videos and now you're like, well, I'll just publish it now. Well, if you're really serious about this, reshoot them, do it again. But I don't think you should just publish just for the sake of publishing because you shot it, and even though you know you could do better. So yes, learn, and there's probably some sort of line where it is worth reshooting and not worth shooting. We're not going to get into that here, but just something to consider especially if you're new to making videos. So, Chris Conkle Vlogs, thank you for the super chat. I'm not sure why you're giving me the $5 because it says, we had a baby this morning. It's a boy. Thank you for all your help and guidance through my first year on YouTube. Congratulations.
Aww.
Being a dad, that I've experienced that a few times and it never gets old. So that's awesome. Congratulations, Chris. So Renee, let's dive into your experience with this and kind of run through some of these ideas here about how people can do this.
Yeah, so as I mentioned before, like when we came up with this idea, I had to think through if I had actually done it myself. And turns out I have done it quite a few times throughout my career, and for different reasons. So for some reason, like in some scenarios, it's been because I did want to create a bunch of content in a short amount of time that I could then publish over weeks or months. And at one point, I actually created 50 videos in 2 days and published all 50 videos.
At once?
At once, yeah.
Wow.
So it was actually, it was at a previous company that I worked with, and I created a bunch of videos at a conference called the Content Marketing World. And I think you've actually presented at that conference
Yeah, I just got the invitation this morning to present there again this next year too.
Oh, so it's very timely.
Yeah.
So amazing conference, and there's just a wealth of information there and so many great speakers. And so I reached out to a bunch of the speakers for the conference and scheduled 60-second interviews with each of the speakers. And I asked them all the same question, which is, what is the hottest thing in content marketing? And I interviewed 50 different people and got 50 different answers. So one question, 50 different answers. And then we published all of those videos on a website so that people could go through the content and just hear, like, from industry experts what their kind of key takeaway is, or kind of the latest thing in content marketing. And so basically with that, it really came down to planning. So I had a very short amount of time to do the planning, so there wasn't a lot of time before actually doing production. But planning in terms of, I figured out, where the content was going to be published, what were the business goals, what were we doing with it, and then reaching out to the speakers in advance before the conference. And I scheduled 10 to 15 minutes, I think, with each speaker. But I just lined up back to back production for that. And so we set up our camera crew and everything. We set up production in one spot, and we had the speakers come to us, and we had a line of people waiting for their interviews, and just did back to back back-to-back videos with that, and then publish them all at once.
Wow. I did that at VidCon 2013. It's the only year my wife ever went with me. She said she'd never come again because I did the same thing as you. I lined up a whole bunch of interviews beforehand and scheduled people almost back to back. And they weren't 60-second ones. They were, sit down 10, 13-minute interviews. So I scheduled about a half hour to an hour to kind of pull each one off. But I think that's the one I did 9 months worth of content in 2 days. And my wife said she wouldn't go because she's like, I didn't see you. She's like, I was just hanging up by myself the whole time. And I was like, I'm sorry. That's like right after I launched Video Creators, though. And I was doing it strategically to try to tap into some other people's audiences and things. And so it worked. But so interviews could be one way of doing it. What are some other ways people could generate some content ideas for this?
Yeah. So in terms of content ideas, I would say start with your audience. So again, make sure that you have business goals, understand who your audience is, and start listing out what are the challenges that your target audience faces with, in a way that's related to your business, your products, your services. How are you trying to help them? And so list out all of their questions that might be related to your field. And then each one of those questions can be a video. So you can answer that question in a video. And then you can also think about it another way, which is in terms of questions. What questions does your target audience maybe have about your company or products or services? And you can answer those questions in a video too. If you don't know the questions or challenges that your audience is facing, find out. You can go to industry meetups. You could do keyword research online. You can find someone who fits as your target audience and just ask them what are their challenges and start creating content around that.
Yeah, all those are great ideas. I think the thing that holds people back when they think about some ideas like that is they're like, I'll just say it. It's the perfectionism problem, and at what point would you say, I hesitate to say this, but like good enough is good, like good is good enough, or like when you should be like, because if you're trying to do 30 videos in 30 days, one for the process of learning, testing your systems, evaluating tools, and then being able to take, batching so you can take some other time off later on your channel. At what point, do you have any guidelines you go by for that?
Yeah, I mean, I think that's kind of it's a personal decision that you have to make. I fall into this too. I mean, I think by nature I'm sort of a perfectionist, but there's always going to be something more that you can do or a way that you can do it better before you publish. And so don't get too hung up on that, especially if you're just starting out. You need to figure out what works and what doesn't. And so you mentioned this earlier is, if you create 30 videos and it's not effective, then don't continue publishing those for the sake of publishing it. So yeah. I would say make sure that you're publishing content and you're figuring out what's working well and what isn't so that you can do it better for the next round, whether it's, a batch production or an individual video. Always be learning and figuring out what works best. For me, in terms of perfection, I try to do a lot of the work up front. And so it's not just about maybe the actual on-camera footage, but it's the other assets that go around it and just kind of planning for that and make sure that you have kind of your graphics and everything and your branding where you want it, and then to create your videos around that.
Yeah, that planning part, like for me, when I headed to VidCon, it was reaching out to everyone ahead of time, people I didn't know, people I did know, and trying to get things on like scheduled at a time and place where we meet. Because when you get there, like everyone's busy and it's so big, it's hard to like find people. But if you reach out ahead of time, it's much more likely that the meeting will happen because you've swapped contact info and you've already been in touch, and you can prepare them so they're not like having to sit down and do extra work while they're at the event to kind of figure things out, what they're going to say and things. So that takes a lot of work up front, but then you're just like boom, sit down and crank them out if you're doing the interview type style of stuff too. What else do you think people should consider when they're doing this, trying to crank this out?
Yeah, so we've talked about this a little bit already, but bulk video production. So instead of setting up and doing everything to create one video, think about ways that you can create a bunch of videos at once. Conferences, great way to do this because especially if you're doing interview style videos, it's a great way to connect with a bunch of influencers and industry experts at once because there's so many people there. So conferences are great for creating a lot of content. The other thing is think about, instead of creating one video about a specific topic, think about how you can plan a series around that topic. And so I know a lot of people will do top 5 tips on, how to create engaging videos or top 5 tips on whatever it is. You can just break that apart and each tip can be its own video. Instead of creating one video with 5 tips, you do 5 videos with 1 tip each.
Right. It was just like what I did with How They Got 1 Million Subscribers, that series. It was like one idea. I want to interview people with 100+ million subscriber channels and just ask, tell me all the behind the scenes tips, secrets, and tactics you use to reach up 1 million subscribers. And 10 tips, basically. We spent a few minutes on each of them, so it turns into 10 episodes. And so I made, instead of sitting down and doing like one quick video, I think some people actually want to dive a little bit deeper than quick little tips. And so we made 10 episodes. And then that idea, How They Got 1 million subscribers in 1 year, I could reproduce. It's easy to kind of like explain. I could show other people, like, here's the season 1 if you want to get an idea, and they would quickly catch on. So it became a lot easier to produce those, especially after the first one. But after introducing the concept, and then just, yeah. And I kind of I would put that in like the systems bucket. Which is like, what processes do you put in place for generating ideas for you, whether it be a series like you're talking about, because it is hard to come up with like one-off videos, like ideas like, shoot, now what should I talk about? So putting together a system or a process that generates ideas for you. Like another one for me is to go through my RSS reader once a week, when I just catch up on all the latest news and updates and things changing on the platform. And that's always full of like, oh wow, I need to talk about that, and and it just generates other ideas for you, especially as things change as quickly as they are in our industry here. But
yeah, absolutely. Yeah. I think that's a good point too, is just look for kind of industry news and kind of things that are relevant, and you can create content around that. And then also, I would recommend looking at your other types of content. Excuse me. Look at your other types of content. So think about, like, if you're blogging, if you have a blog post that's worked particularly well and has gotten a lot of engagement, maybe turn that into a video. So you can pull ideas from your own content and just kind of repurpose that into a different format.
Right. Good question from Brandon Nisha in the chat. He basically says, the perfectionist problem, quality or quantity? And I think what we're talking about here isn't sacrificing quality for quantity. Well, we need to do both, right? So like, if you're just doing a lot of video content that's not really quality and doesn't really serve people that well, like, don't publish it. You're not going to help yourself. You're not going to help your channel. You're not going to, people aren't going to like really learn to love everything that you publish. It's just not going to serve anyone well. So instead, what we're talking about, making my throat go a little bit too, is we're talking more like quality and quantity. But there's a point where like the quality is like at a certain point, and you could work a lot. You could put in twice as many hours into the editing or the tweaking or whatever. But at the end of the day, like the quality doesn't actually go up. The only thing that's going up is the amount of time you're spending on it. And so,
well, to that point, I would say sometimes the quality might be going up, but your results from the content might not increase. So you're not getting more sales or more views. You're not getting something that's it's not worth the extra effort.
Right. That's a better way of saying it. Yeah. So I hope that answers your question. And you guys got some good ones coming in, so we will dive into them here in just a minute. So keep asking them. Laura's getting them in front of us here. So speaking of systems and processes, how about like what types of repeatable processes and video elements and things do you use that kind of streamline, there we go, the process for your content?
Yeah, so for me, this is, I think, one of the biggest things in terms of being able to create content at scale is to start creating templated video elements and repeatable processes. So for example, I'll talk about the repeatable processes. So I work with an editor, and I previously used to just use Google Docs and like email going back and forth in terms of video reviews and just, asking for different things. But using a platform like Frame.io really streamlines that process. There's other companies out there. Frame.io just happens to be the one that I use. And it allows you to create annotations and comments in line directly with the video. So when your editor is looking at it, or anyone else on your team, they can click on your comment and it takes them right to the section in the video where you're making a comment about. And so having some of those tools up front and having that repeatable process will help you along the way. And so you're not creating a new process each time. The other thing is around templated video elements. You can create, this is what I've done up front for my own video series, is create a branded intro, lower thirds. So the names and titles that you add for each person that you're interviewing or yourself to introduce them on camera, a branded end screen, a text screen, so a section where there's some type of animation or background video, and then over the top you put text. So I have all of those things planned out in advance. So then when I do a video interview, I just do the on-camera piece of it, and I have all of those elements already ready to add to it. And this is something that I do within Powtoon. So within Powtoon, I have all of the different branded assets, but I actually have a template specifically for the videos too. And so I can upload that video and then move around the templated elements so that they're in the right place in the video. And that really helps me streamline my process, in creating videos. And it also gives it a consistent look and feel if it's a series.
Yeah, totally. We do the same thing. Once you kind of make some of those elements, you just keep using them over and over again. No need to keep recreating lower thirds and intros and bumpers and transitions and stuff. Just keep those things in place. Even thumbnails too.
Yeah, absolutely. So even thumbnails, having a consistent style. And even though you have templated elements, you can still play with it a little bit. So you can change the background color or, add different graphics to it. And so that makes it so that you are using templated elements and kind of a templated style, but that each video does look different and it doesn't start looking exactly the same.
Yeah, not exactly the same, but people do. They like having some predictable elements, or like, oh, I feel like I'm watching one of Tim's videos right now, or like there's just some things that you would just always expect. And those are important to have them. So it's not a bad thing by any means. Not every video even should be different. There should be some things that people just grow to love and expect, and they just like, hey, if that part's missing, people are like, wait, what's wrong with this video, right? And because they expected those certain things. Like if I opened up one of my videos saying like, hey guys, welcome to Video Creators, we're just all about helping you become rich and famous, popular and wealthy. People would be like, whoa, wait a minute. Really? Like, I'm down for those things. Don't get me wrong. But
that might be a good way to spark engagement. Because you'll just get so many people that are thrown off asking questions.
They'd be like, what's wrong with Tim today? And that's what I mean. Like having those rituals in there are really helpful. And then for repurposing and repackaging content, I know you talked a little bit about that, about like you don't have to make one piece and then use it once and that's it. There's other ways to use it too.
So there's a lot of ways to repurpose and repackage content. And knowing this information up front will help you as you're actually producing your content. So as much planning as you can do up front, that'll help you in the long run. But think about, what are the platforms that you're using to distribute your content, and what types of video formats do you need for that content? So, for example, you might do most of your production as a horizontal kind of traditional style video, but on certain platforms you might want a square video or a vertical video. And so there are ways that you can kind kind of plan for that in advance. Within Powtoon, you can actually go in and select if you want to change a video to square or vertical. And in that case, once you change it to a square vertical video, you can start playing with the graphics that are on screen to make sure that it actually fits within that square or vertical video. And so if you have that information up front, you can plan for that type of production. The other thing is you can also plan for repurposing longer form content and creating it into shorter videos. For example, if you have a video presentation or a webinar, you can take the webinar and cut that up into shorter videos. I think we might have a video example to show for this one, but Powtoon does a lot of webinars, and we take certain like tips within each of the webinars, and we'll turn it into, we'll take an hour-long webinar and turn it into 10 different videos, 2-minute videos. And so that's a great way to get a lot of content and kind of repurpose longer form content into something that's shorter.
What do you think about repurposing, like doing a live stream and a podcast recording at the same time? Does that count?
Yeah, that counts as repurposing. Absolutely. Yeah. So it's not repurposing it into other types of videos, but you're repurposing it into other types of content. So you're taking a video and you're turning it into an audio podcast, which is right. Great. The other thing is, and I know that you and I have talked about this off camera, but we talk about a lot of different things in these videos, and so some of them are in the live stream that it could be 30 minutes to 50 minutes. But there are so many different kind of tips that we talk about. You could take this and turn it into shorter video clips.
And I used to actually, back in the early days of my channel, I would take a interview like this that we live streamed, and then I would cut it up into maybe not 10, but maybe like 4 or 5 different like really solid clips to share. And then I would go back and record a separate intro. I didn't upload just the clip on its own because people are like, what's going on here? Who's this person? Like they don't know the context. So I would open it up with a little 15-second hook. Like, for example, if you guys don't know how to make engaging thumbnails, I actually had a guest on a recent live stream of mine. He gave some amazing tips to how to get more clicks on your thumbnails. His name is Joshua whatever, and he's coming up right after this. So I'd show my branded intro, and then I would show the clip. And then I would, after that clip was over, then I might have another thought or two just to kind of add on to the end of it, and then wrap up the video with a separate clip. So I would always sandwich like the repurposed clip in between an original opening and ending, so that people would know what was going on and wouldn't feel just like lazy regurgitated type of stuff. So that stuff can work really well too.
Yeah, so I did something like that recently too. I did a video presentation for Vidyard. It's an online video platform. And so I did a presentation that was part of a virtual summit. And the presentation I did, it's 20 minutes long, which is it's a long video to watch. And it was only available through Vidyard for a certain amount of time, but now I'm taking that video, I'm chunking it up into smaller clips. So each main idea is its own video clip, and then I'm adding an on-camera introduction. And so I'll turn that into a video course on content marketing with video. So it's a great way to repurpose content, but it doesn't look like I'm just being lazy and just editing it into a bunch of clips and then publishing that. I'm adding some new things on top of that.
Yeah, great.
Yep.
You guys got some good questions. They mostly revolve around one thing, but we're going to come back to that one thing here in a second. Is that a good tease? Is that a good setup? I don't even know.
Actually, it is, because I don't even know what it is. Like, I want to know what is that one thing?
Yeah, most people are talking about, according to Lara, thank you, Lara, for organizing hundreds of messages a minute into something that we can make useful here. So there's a few other ones. Let's kind of hit some of the other ones first, so we have a little bit more time to focus on the main one people are asking. Okay. So Logic Spin asks, how do you prevent yourself from burning out with this? I mean, there's a point where if you're going to try to do 30 videos in 30 days, like you just want to be like, I'm done. Like, do you think this does lead to burnout, or does it actually help avoid it because you're actually, you can take a good few months off maybe or something after you've done this?
Yeah, so I think it can do either. It depends on how you plan this out, and it depends on why you're doing it. So if you're doing 30 videos in 30 days consistently, every single month you're creating 30 videos, that might be too much. It depends on the way that you actually structure this. So if you're doing like one, or a few hour-long videos, and then you're chunking that up into smaller videos, that might be manageable. So doing that every single month might be scalable for you. But if you're doing 30 different interview videos at conferences, that is a lot of work. And if you do that every single month, I think you probably will burn out. So it depends on how you're kind of structuring this. And then the other thing is, in terms of your purpose behind it, if the goal is to create 30 videos so that you can have 9 months of content, like you did, Tim, when you started Video Creators, then that's going to help you avoid burnout. So that you're not creating content for the next 9 months. You take a couple of days and you can plan for that. You know that you're going to be exhausted. Make sure that you're nice to yourself after that. Maybe book a spa day or something to relax after that. But know that you're going to be extremely tired from doing all of those interviews. But then you have content for the next 9 months.
I love my spa days. Just kidding. I've never done that.
Really? I highly recommend it.
I have heard, yeah. I just had to get over the weird part of like strangers touching me part. So after I get over that, might be great. But even with a chiropractor, I have that issue.
You could go to a sauna. No one's touching you then.
Yeah, I don't know. Like, hey, let's all get naked and sweat in front of each other. I don't know.
Yeah.
I've never been to a sauna either. I just see pictures and stuff, of other people who have, but.
It's not for everyone, but do something that's relaxing for you.
For me, that would be like ice cream on the couch, watching either. I've really getting into Penn and Teller lately, Fool Us, that show, and catching up with like Dude Perfect or something like that, or Marcus Lemonis on The Prophet. Always a win whenever he's got a new episode out. So
yeah, I don't know any of those shows, but I do love binging and eating ice cream and binging Netflix.
You would love The Prophet on CNBC with Marcus Lemonis. Like, I feel like there's a couple different camps in the business world. There's like the Gary Vee crowd, like everyone who's just like, I'm more personally more on like the Marcus Lemonis crowd of as far as business, entrepreneur, celebrity type of people. And it's just so great, like his show. So I always learn so much about business when I watch it. It's like it's entertaining. It's kind of what I'm aspiring to. Kind of get off topic here, but telling really good stories in a format that people want to consume, that is meaningful to people, but also educational. And so I learned a lot about reading P&Ls, profit and loss statements, and the importance of like hiring and how you hire, and even like things that don't really apply to me as much, like traffic inventory management and things that apply in other. It's great. Check it out. Okay.
I'll look up the show. I'm gonna add one into the ring, and not to get too much off topic, but I'll recommend kind of an odd show for learning about video marketing and business. Mm-hmm. But there's a show on Netflix called The Toys That Made Us. It's a docuseries.
Yeah, I've heard of that. I haven't seen it. I don't have Netflix. I keep doing the free trials they send me, and I'm like, every time I do the monthly trial, I'm like, I don't know why I should keep paying for this. There's nothing on here that I really want to watch.
Well, The Toys That Made Us, it's amazing, and it talks like I've learned a lot about storytelling through The Toys That Made Us, and also just about business, because they talk about kind of franchises around different types of toys and different movies and things like that, but just kind of business structure and stuff too. So, and it's really entertaining, and it's mostly toys from the 80s. I'm a child of the 80s. I love 80s toys.
I'm looking at it right now online. Yep. Playmobil. Yes, I remember Playmobil mixed with Legos. Yeah, I remember that. Cool. I got it up here. Yep. Maybe I'll try another free month of Netflix. I think it's been 2 years, so they might give me another free month, and I'll try it. But if you have YouTube TV, that's where I record The Prophet and watch that. So, okay, other questions. Sorry about that, guys. Let's see here. Oh, real quick question before we get into the big one. History Treehouse asked, does Powtoon work with DaVinci Resolve?
We don't have a plugin specifically for DaVinci Resolve, but you can do your editing or color correction or whatever you want to do within DaVinci Resolve, and then you can upload that content to your Powtoon account.
There you go. The Kid Creators, thank you for the super chat. Kid Creators ask, I've noticed that with kid channels, the quality isn't as important. Should I just put out videos even though the quality is bad? Getting better with each video? I personally wouldn't publish something if you think is bad. I mean, the goal here isn't to be like, what's everyone else doing? Oh, let's not do anything harder than what they're doing. I think the goal here is like, if everyone else's content you think is bad, make it great and blow them out of the water, right? Like, don't settle for this is as much as I have to do, minimum amount of work, you know. And I do understand the question. That's not necessarily your heart behind it. It's more of like, you know, at what point do I, you know, just call it good and publish it? But if I would just say like, where's the competition, and let's do twice as good what they're doing. If you know, if that's how you feel, you can pull that off.
Yeah, and I would say that I just encourage this for everyone. Just make sure you're publishing content that you feel good about. Like your name is on it, you can stand behind it, and you feel good about publishing that content.
Yep. So the question everyone's asking, and it's a little bit off topic, and we're not going to camp out here for too long, but is like a lot of people are saying it's just hard when you have a full-time job, or it's hard when you're in school, or in my case, it's hard when you have 7 kids and a wife and a team you're managing. There's 10 people on my team here at Video Creators, and we're all trying to serve creators the best way we can. There's just a lot going on, and I don't think that there's anyone who'd be like, man, I don't know what you guys are doing wrong, but I got tons of free time. You know, I don't think there's anyone listening to that who's in that bucket. So anything, Renee, that you've learned in your years of experience of doing this in terms of like, you know, just managing the busyness with the content production stuff?
Yeah, I mean, creating content is only one aspect of my job too. There's a bunch of other things that I'm kind of juggling and doing at the same time. And sometimes I'm scripting content while I'm on a flight to go present at a conference, or so I just sort of make it work. But I would say, if you're creating content consistently, so you're not just doing a one-off video, but this is, core to your business, or you're a YouTube creator and you're publishing daily, weekly, monthly videos, whatever it may be, really think about a plan for that, and, plan in advance, create those repeatable processes that we've been talking about, make sure that you have the right tools in place to make it easier for you. And as Tim mentioned in the beginning of this video, there may be a learning curve for some of these different tools, whether it's Powtoon or Frame.io or kind of other tools that you're using to help with this. There may be a learning curve up front, but you do that upfront work, and then it's just much easier as you continue to create content, and as much planning as you can do up front. And I mentioned this already, but what I've done in terms of, I have a new video series that's launching soon called the Make It Awesome. Well, it's Make It Awesome with Renee Teely. Internally, I call it the Make It Awesome Show. And for that, I wanted to figure out a way to make it scalable so that I can create that content while I'm doing all of the other things that I have to do for my job. And so for that, I figured out all of the branded assets in advance. That was the first thing I did. Figured out branding for the show, created the branded intro, lower thirds, end screens, text, all of that stuff. So it's all branded. And then figured out, what is that process moving forward? So how am I going to work with the video editor? How am I going to publish this content? What is the format that, kind of the style that I want for thumbnail images? And then also a strategy behind all of it. So it's not just about creating the video asset and publishing that. I need to figure out ways to promote it too. So what are the things that I need for every single video? I need a blog post. I need social posts. So just start mapping those things out, and then figuring out ways that you can just make it as manageable as possible in terms of templated elements, in terms of the tools you need, and those types of things.
Yeah, I think the misconception is like, well, once I become a full-time creator, or if my job for my business was full time creating content or whatever, then that would be a lot easier. So like Tim, you got it a lot easier because like this is your job, and it's such a misconception, guys. Like, I know the way it looks like on the front side of being a creator is that, like on the public side, is that all we do all day is create content, and that all we do is like sit around and dream our next video, and we have lots of budget money to kind of go make it happen. It's not true at all. In fact, I don't know if anyone's noticed, but I have yet to publish a produced video this year. I've been doing these live streams with Renee, which have been great, but I've sat down. I've shot 2 videos so far. I just shot another one last night that I think is going to be more of a vlog style one that I think you guys will like. Come out in a few weeks. But man, like even I'm behind. Like, and part of that's because I took off for a few months over the holidays because I wasn't expecting to, but my team was off, and I found it hard to actually do work when they weren't working on other stuff too. So it was just hard to get things done. So I actually just took off, and it was great. But there's always more work to do. There's always something else to do, no matter who you are, whatever position you're in. And I think what it really comes down to is just how much you really want it. Like how much is this like just a priority to you? The things that are our highest priorities somehow find a way to get done. And on the flip side, for someone like me, like I don't really watch too much TV other than maybe on Saturday or Friday evening I'll watch like a Prophet or something with my wife. I really miss playing video games. I don't get to do that a whole lot, and there's just other things that just don't happen. So we are all busy, but I think it comes down to priorities, really, for all of us, myself included. Even for full-time creators, there's always more contracts to review and email. I have someone on my team who I pay her about 15 to 20 hours a week just to help me manage email. Right, so there's always something, and I think that's what it is. So,
yeah, I think kind of layering on top of that too is if you know that this is the type of thing that you want to do on a one-time basis or consistently. So if it's 30 videos in 30 days every single month, you definitely have to plan that out. If you're just doing it once and you're going to publish over time, block off time to do it. So I mean, I have video creation days that are blocked off on my calendar. The same thing I do with creating other types of content. So I have like a set time that I know I'm not doing anything else. This is what I'm doing on that day. And then I plan backwards from there too. So if I know that I'm going to actually produce the video, I'm going to set up, do my full camera setup. Then I'll plan certain things out before that. So I have the script in advance, so I know exactly what I'm going to say when I'm on camera. But I have that time just blocked off, and then you just stick to it.
The other thing I've found that sometimes helps me is is planning the time to do it. But then I sit down, I'm like, okay, I got to plan out these videos. And sometimes for me, I'm like, if I sit here and plan, I'm just never going to get it done. So like the first video I did that'll go up on Thursday here, I literally had no script. I had no outline, no note. I just sat down. I'm like, I had an idea in my head and I just shot it. I had no idea what it's going to turn out like, but in that case, I come back to like done is better than perfect. And now other content I do map out a little bit more and things. So it's not all the time, but especially since I'm planning on upping my game and here with some content you guys will be seeing here in the next few months. I'm excited about. So we have some big video projects stuff that we're working on, like a reality show on YouTube, kind of. So that'll be fun. So
interesting.
Stay tuned for that. Yeah. But in a way that's really educational, I think, and inspiring for creators. So looking forward to publishing that. So that's already in the works. But I mean, like the normal, just kind of week to week content. I think what it really comes down to is just priorities for me. So,
yeah,
cool guys. I think too, if you want to save time, check out Powtoon. I mean, I think it's a great tool that could potentially save you a lot of time. As Melody Lane said in the chat earlier, she signed up for it and she's like, "Oh, this is great," and it may not be for you, and that's okay. That's why they have free trials, I think, right?
Yeah, we actually have a free plan. So it's a freemium model. So we have a free plan if you just want to use the free plan. There's some added features if you upgrade your plan.
Yeah.
But we also have a trial available for the upgraded plans too, so that you can try it out and make sure that the features are right for you, and that you actually want to kind of pay that monthly fee or an annual plan for that.
Yeah, and if you do the annual plan, you can use code SFVideoCreators20 for 20% off any of those annual plans. It's all one word, SFVideoCreators20. And the link to that and info for that is in the show notes or in the description below this live stream. You guys can check it out and maybe play around with that tool and see if it's right for you or not. So, and then you have a show coming up on your channel, on the Powtoon YouTube channel, right? The Make It Awesome show with Renee Teely. When is that launching?
Yes. So we're kind of going back and forth in terms of the launch date. The date that we have planned right now is February 4th. It may actually launch sooner. We have a bunch of videos done. So speaking of 30 videos in 30 days, I didn't do 30 videos in 30 days, but I did a bunch of videos at a conference. And so I have the videos already ready, and we kind of have been building out the launch plan around that. But yeah, so it'll launch February 4th or beforehand. And if you're interested in that, I recommend going to youtube.com/Powtoon, and you can subscribe and then be notified when that series launches.
Yeah, coming soon. First videos with Roberta Blake. Is that what I saw?
Yes.
Yeah, so you guys want to get that good stuff coming from them, head on over there.
Second video might be with you. Yeah, you might be.
Oh, okay, cool.
Yeah, you might be number 2 on that list.
Sweet. All right, you guys go check it out. Now you have to go.
Yes.
Go check it out. So yeah, guys, check it out. Link in the show notes. And I think this is our last sponsored hangout with Renee. So you guys need to go over there and show her some love and hang out and comment, subscribe, and share and like, and anything else they're supposed to do. I'm trying to figure out how many call to actions.
Just all the things.
Okay.
Yes. just all of it.
Cool.
This has been great. I will definitely miss the video creators community. So I loved kind of going through this process with you. This has been wonderful.
I think they're pretty swell. It's pretty
cool.
Yeah. So we do have a great guest for you guys next week. His name is Matt from Vsauce. If you guys ever know who Michael from Vsauce is, really one of the biggest science channels on YouTube. And we just want to have a pretty frank conversation about some of the mental health issues that are behind being a creator. And what does it really look like when you reach your goals on YouTube? And most people find it's not really what they expected, and it wasn't really all it was cracked up to be. And so we want to kind of give you guys the honest truth of, as you know, what happens behind the scenes of big creators with big channels, and how can you maybe avoid some of the issues that these creators bump into that are actually really, really common. So this is going to be a really important conversation. I know it's probably not going to be super popular in terms of views and downloads and things like that, but I really think it's a really meaningful one. That it's the type of thing like you don't know you need it until after you've heard the conversation, and then you're like, I'm really glad I heard that conversation, you know? So looking forward to hanging out with you guys then. Thanks for hanging out. Thank you for Renee for being a part of this, and thank you Powtoons for sponsoring it. And we look forward to catching up with all of you guys next week for another Video Creators Podcast episode /live stream. See you guys then. Bye.
Great. Bye.